boy, you see the thumbnail, you know this is about the tariffs. And I know Drinker knows a little bit more about certain financial aspects of the movie industry than I do. So I want to hear what the man has to say. Get over and subscribe. Tell him Tyrone Magnus sent you. I told you guys, I don't know if this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing, but right now I'm thinking bad thing. That's what I said in my last video, so we shall see.
You know, I've talked many times on this channel about politics interfering with movies, but usually I meant it in a slightly more subtle way.
Like in the script writing.
In the script writing, or the casting choices, or privileged, functionally disabled stars mouthing off about contemporary issues that they barely understand. It's not often that actual political decisions made in the halls of power have a direct impact on the film industry, but that might be about to change when the US president announced a 100% tariff on any movie made outside the United States.
The movie industry in America is dying a very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States. Hollywood and many other areas within the USA are being devastated. This is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Therefore, I am authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again.
And I already told you guys, I'm like, okay, well, there's certain people certain productions, they're already in the middle of production. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, are you going to cut them a break? Just certain people, certain productions have already finalized certain things. Like, I just did a video on Matt Reeves dropping out of directing The Batman, but it's said to be already set to film in London in 2026. Well, what about them, where they've already secured everything that they're going to do? Are they going to have to pay tariffs? You know what I'm saying? Will there be an exception for certain things? What about anime? What about all this? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know Trump knows more than I do, you know what I mean, about the financial state of the United States. But I just want to know, like, like other things I've heard him do. I'm like, okay, the way he explains it seems like it's going to be a good idea. This I don't know. You know what I mean?
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Boy,
now, before we go any further with this, I want to make it clear that this video isn't about Trump or his administration or any of that stuff, because that's none of my fucking business. But what I do want to talk about is the movie industry as a whole, because if this tariff plan actually goes into effect, the impact on Hollywood and the entire worldwide film industry is going to be seismic. And to explain why, I need to delve into a few facts and figures, which I know is boring as fuck, but none of this is going to make any sense if I don't. So, as compensation for that, I'll at least give you some nice visuals to look at to keep things ticking over. Oh, that's better. Now, anyway, let's get started. So, what would actually happen if Trump did impose a 100% tariff on any film made outside the US?
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
Well, for a start, the British film industry would be gutted like a fish. A surprising number of Hollywood studios shoot their films and TV shows over in the UK now. Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Mission Impossible, Jurassic World, The Batman, and portions of Star Wars, Snow White, and various MCU movies are just some of the productions that were shot over here in recent years. Why? Well, mostly because the UK government offers a pretty generous tax rebate of 25% on all film productions that shoot over here, which is a pretty big little arrangement for everyone involved. The studios get a bit of money back in their pockets, and the UK film industry gets a big employment boost.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
But we're not the only ones doing it by a long shot. Canada, Mexico, and various countries across Eastern Europe also offer similar schemes, all trying to entice Hollywood to shoot their next blockbuster over there, with the promise of healthy tax rebates and cheap labour costs. So, everyone's a winner, right?
No.
Wrong.
Well, everyone except people working in the American film industry, because suddenly all those big lucrative productions are shooting overseas, effectively undercutting the US job market and putting all those guys in the production side of things out of work.
Fuck.
And I guess this is what the tariff scheme is trying to address. It's using the threat
Someone
of
said he's sweaty with the half a teddy falling out.
tariffs to force a renegotiation of this arrangement and theoretically bring jobs back to the US, particularly in California, where obviously Hollywood is actually based. So it would make a lot more sense to shoot films there. The thing is, California does actually have a tax rebate scheme of its own for film and TV productions. The only problem is that it's 20% instead of 25% offered by the UK, and it's capped within a certain range instead of being unlimited, which is bad news if you're shooting a $300 million movie.
Gotcha.
In effect, it's always going to be at a disadvantage compared to other countries and even other states like...
See, learning stuff here. Okay, 25% or whatever in the UK with no cap. There's a cap in California though, at 20%. No, just it's 20%, but there is a cap to how big the movie is.
Georgia. Ever wondered why so many film and TV shows seem to be shot in Atlanta these days? Well, that's because Georgia offers a 30% unlimited rebate on everything that gets made there. Pretty tempting, eh? Now, California has a bill under consideration right now to increase their rebate to 35%, but like everything else, it'll likely get tied up in years of legal wrangling and red tape bullshit.
Oh, no wonder they shoot so much. And I mean, I always heard that it was a tax thing. I always heard that, or it was cheaper, in Atlanta. But wow, okay.
And if by some miracle it ever actually passes, it's going to be so watered down and overcomplicated that it'll be practically useless. This new tariff plan is basically a way of forcing their hand, forcing them to push through the new bill as a matter of emergency, because the alternative would be the complete destruction of the film industry. Why? Because film production isn't like manufacturing. It's not like movies are made in some factory in one specific location that can just churn them out day after day, even if it feels like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Films draw talent and resources from all over the world to get made, especially big-budget Hollywood movies that often shoot in multiple locations. Like, imagine if you're making some new espionage action film and you want to shoot a chase sequence on location in Istanbul, for example, a briefing scene in a skyscraper in London, and a final confrontation in the Swiss Alps. Well, now you've got an international production on your hands, which means the new tariffs now apply to it, and your costs for all of this location shooting just went up by like 100%. Is it even feasible to make a film like that now? Probably not, so it doesn't even go into production. And what about films that hire outside effects companies from other countries? Do they get a tariff slapped on them too? What about foreign actors?
Now I wouldn't think that they would, if you're, I'm saying, because if it's all made, like, say you totally shot everything in America, but you delegated different portions of, special effects and everything, finishing the movie up, to different studios. You know what I mean? People just at their computer, I don't think that would, because it was still shot in America. You get what I'm saying? But
working in America, or specialist crew members from outside the US. I could go on and on with countless examples, but you get the point here. It's safe to say that tariffs like this are a negotiating tactic rather than a practical measure that will actually get implemented. They're a bit like financial nuclear weapons. Their power lies in the threat of their use rather than actually being used. But what the hell, let's play devil's advocate for a second and say that this does actually go into effect. California passes its new bill to increase tax rebates and film productions flood back to the US.
Okay.
What's going to happen next? Well, it's safe to say that the UK film industry is going to be fucked, at least in the short term. A huge chunk of their employment now comes from big American productions, so it'll mean a lot of downsizing and redundancies, and probably force...
I definitely thought about that, and I was like, well, they do shoot over in Europe a lot. And I was like, okay, well, I guess... Maybe they'll have to ramp up their own production of movies and stuff to compensate.
Force a switch towards smaller homegrown productions. It'll be the same story in countries like Mexico and especially Eastern Europe, which has become a pretty attractive filming location in recent years, especially for lower budget movies. Seriously, you'd be amazed how many cheap action flicks were filmed over there. Not anymore though, unless they're able to increase their rebates and drop labour costs so low that production companies would be insane to turn them down. In the short term at least, it might actually spark a kind of price war where various countries try to outbid each other, each offering bigger and more lucrative incentives for film companies to shoot there. But the thing is, that's the kind of war that only America can ever possibly win. They're the ones with the population, the audience, all the major film studios, and the sheer fucking political power to get whatever they want. Yeah, countries like China and India have much bigger populations and more money to throw at the problem, but they've always been too culturally isolated from the wider film industry to have much of an impact. They very much do their own thing for their own people, and it's pretty rare for any of their movies to make a big splash internationally. But what about the longer term picture when all the dust finally settles? What will the film industry even look like by then? Well, one of the big repercussions I think we'll see from this is a reduction in overall movie budgets. And let's be honest, that's a problem that's been getting...
I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, well, if they make them cheaper, then they could deal with that. You know, what was the movie that Denzel Washington's son was in? I did a review of it. I liked it. I can't remember the name of it, but wasn't it like 95 million or something? And the special effects were better than all these 200 million and $300 million movies. Yeah, I mean, like, can't y'all learn to budget properly or bring in the right people or work efficiently? You know, I think this is where a lot of people talk about these money laundering schemes with these studios. You get what I'm saying? It's like, why did that movie cost that much? But this movie costs this much and looks better than that movie. You know what I mean?
Getting bigger with every passing year and needs to be addressed. Films today are far too bloated, too expensive, too risk-averse, and too complicated to be sustainable. Their budgets need to be brought under control, especially if tariffs become a bigger issue, which will at least help to mitigate the problem if not solve it completely. And who knows, smaller budgets will make space for more film projects per year and might actually encourage a bit more artistic experimentation and risk-taking. Instead of, you know, relying on a fucking Ouroboros of sequels, remakes, and reboots to milk more money from jaded audiences that's basically become the norm over the past decades. A lot of this is kind of speculation at this point because we don't really know how far Trump's going to take this and what concessions he might ultimately get. But one thing that everyone seems to have quietly acknowledged is that the status quo in Hollywood has reached a kind of breaking point. Something has to give, and maybe, just maybe, we might end up with a better industry at the end of it all.
Maybe.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
That makes it all better in the end. Trust me, fellas. Oh, boy. Oh, man, yeah. We're just going to have to see how he implements it. It is what it is. And a lot of the stuff we've been getting now has been garbage anyway. So part of me doesn't care. You get what I'm saying? Part of me is concerned because there is good things that are in production right now. And I like about half of what I see now. You get what I'm saying? So I miss the days of when I liked more than half of what I see. But it is what it is. They decided to implement the woke times, propaganda, garbage filmmaking and stuff. So it is what it is. But hopefully this all shakes out well. 10 million subscribers. Woo!